And and so what I'm super excited about is sharing this material today, because it really is about the foundational pieces of real estate. And we are super excited to bring the basics, the 24 basics of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So before we get started, though, I think it would be fun to introduce ourselves so you know who's on here. I have an amazing partner here, Miss Jell. Her name says Denise because she's co-hosting this with me this morning. Jell is from the Philippines, and if you have questions or challenges, technical challenges, Jell's going to be helping us on the back end. Stacy, would you introduce yourself and what part of the country you're in? And how long in real estate?
I'm in New Braunfels, Texas, so near San Antonio. And I've been with Keller Williams just a couple of months. I actually got my real estate license over a year ago in June after a COVID layoff, right? I went through the process of getting my license, and I was just about to take the exam when I actually got picked up by an employer, an insurance carrier, and that was the industry I was in, was insurance loss control for workplace. So for 35 years, I've done safety and workplace loss control. And so I worked with this carrier for about 10 months because going almost a year without employment, just wanted to build up some funds, but went ahead and got my license. And in the interim, I had my first listing. I was with a smaller boutique broker here locally, and had my first listing, and it sold for $950,000. So I was fortunate. It was actually a close friend, family member that was selling their home. So I've had a little bit of experience, but then realized I needed a lot more training. So that's when I jumped over to Keller Williams in September. So here I am trying to learn the ropes.
Well, the San Antonio market centers are the top market centers across the country in all of Keller Williams. So they are rock stars, talent, and wealth builders. So I'm so excited you're with them. That is cool. Welcome. And
Thank
Kara,
you.
how about you? Give us a little introduction.
Yeah, I actually had a similar story getting started with Keller Williams. I had left my job in 2019 with the intention of taking a couple of months off and seeing what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And my wife is actually the one who got started in real estate classes, and I kind of jumped on her train, and then she got promoted and stayed where she was, and I became a real estate agent. So that was like, but I've been with Keller Williams for 2 years and love it. So.
And where are you from, Kara?
I'm from San Antonio. Oh yeah, we're in the same area.
So have you two met before?
Which brokerage are you at?
New Braunfels.
In New Braunfels. Okay, yeah. I'm in Heritage off 1604 and 281 in San Antonio.
Oh, okay. I know right where you're at. I live in Vintage Oaks. So.
Oh, great. I have a listing in Vintage Oaks.
Okay.
See, and that's why we find out who each other are. Well, this is cool. This is cool. All right. Well, and like I said, we had about 17 people registered for this class. So I was taking my time a little bit to get started, and yet at the same time, let's dig in. So here's the class today. You know, I teach several different classes. Some are more coaching and interactive, and some are more teaching and training. Today is more about training. So what we're covering today, let's go to the next slide, Jill, is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Now, if you happen to have a copy of your Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, it might be easy. I mean, it might be easier for you. I'm actually going to teach straight from the book. And if you have one, like I might get a highlighter and a pen and highlight the heck out of this thing. Like if you were to see my book, you would see that I've got, well, I don't know if you can see that I have highlights and notes throughout my book, because this is like, not to be sacrilegious, yet this is like your real estate Bible. The answer is in here. And so the more we can help agents, and what's interesting is whether you're a Keller Williams agent or another company agent. Almost every agent who's been in the business 3 or 4 years or more has read this book, because the models and systems are in here. And we talk about, we're a company of models and systems. And so we're going to be covering the 24 topics. You'll see that the book is broken up in a couple different ways, yet we're going to cover what Gary Keller has focused on. Is these are the 24 most important topics that'll bring you the most insight into your business. So today is an overview of this. As you're going through, earmark the pages that you want to go back to, either in your manual or in this book, and you can dive deeper. So I like to say this is more like water skiing versus scuba diving. So we're going to skim the surface. We're not going to go deep. Does that make sense? Now, at any point, if you have a question, I might be able to point you out to another area of the book where you can go back and read chapter 6 or dive deep into a specific area. Yet this is perfect for the two of you we're going to surface so that you can go back deep later in what you want. Now, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is, you're going to, this is the book that gets you to receive $1 million, to receive $1 million in real estate now, or in earnings per year. And that's the goal of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Now, I'd like to share this though. It's interesting. I've coached a lot of agents, and sometimes agents say they compare their insides to other people's outsides, as in they judge themselves based upon their goals compared to somebody else's goals. And what's awesome about this book is that you can choose the place you want to go to and get to there. If you want to be a millionaire real estate agent, great. The model's here. If you want to earn $400,000 a year, the model is here. You just don't go all the way. So wherever you choose to go, the model's here. So that's how I'd like to start. Like, your answers are here. Budgets are here. Everything's broken down in this book. Now, before we get too much farther, I would like to hear, what are your goals? Like, what would you like to take away or learn? You signed up for this class for a reason. I want to make sure that we answer that reason or that question for you today. So who'd like to start? What would you like to make sure to take away today?
I mean, I'm down for $1 million. That's okay.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm putting Kara down for the first $1 million. Anybody get a lottery ticket and not win the $1 billion? So I may as well go to Denise's class on Friday. I didn't win either. Okay. How about you,
Thank you for
Stacey?
being here then.
Yeah, if I won the $1 billion, I wouldn't have been here today. I'll be honest. Yeah. How about you, Miss Stacey?
I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is your experience, right? Your tips, your tricks, and not necessarily tricks, but all of those things that we can learn from your experiences, so that we don't have to go through the painful experience of making this mistake or that mistake as we start up.
Awesome.
That's really what I'm looking for, because then we're going to get to that $1 million quicker.
Yeah.
So,
and and I can tell, Stacey, that would be something important to you, because I'm going to make a very good guess that in your previous profession, it wasn't recreating the wheel, it was following a model. Very much so, right? Yeah.
And I managed 8 people, so with the point that I was laid off, so in different states, so the model looked a little bit different for each one of those based on their personalities and what they brought to the table, their experience, their technical knowledge, all of those things.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to answer that and a whole lot more today. So let's go ahead and start. Let's go to the next page, Ms. Jill. Okay. So if you turn to page 23 in your work, do both of you have an MREA by chance? Awesome. Okay. If you turn to page 23, and you can always see on our PowerPoint, when we're talking about a specific page, you'll see it right here on the PowerPoint slide. So Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it's about thinking big, aiming high, acting bold, and living large. And, you know, on page 22, it just starts with that a real estate agent with a very low startup cost and no ceiling. This is what's so cool. A real estate career seems perfectly tailored for ambitious entrepreneurs. You know, it was interesting. I was on a plane this week. I teach a class called Bold, and I'm in 4 different cities right now. And this week I'm flying into Lexington and Louisville every week. This is my 3rd week. There are all these CEOs on the plane I'm sitting next to. I found that really interesting, right? And the CEO said, I spoke to this gentleman, and he was the past CEO of UPS Airlines. He was responsible for buying these smaller airlines so that they had enough of a fleet to create the UPS airline to, you know, travel. So it was really interesting. And he said, you know, I send everyone with a that appears to have a talent to possibly become a CEO or a top executive one day. I pay for them to go to the Wharton School of Business and get their MBA. He says, I currently have like 7 or 8 people that I'm funding to go there. And I was like, wow. And I asked him, I said, well, what would you rather have? Would you rather hire somebody on your team that's like emerging talent or proven talent? And he goes, well, I choose emerging talent any day. Unless it's like a CEO position, then I would choose proven talent. And I asked him, I said, what's important about them getting an MBA? Because you know, they're probably very smart to start with. He goes, oh yeah, they're all smart. It gives us a common language though to speak about. When they come to the table, they already have the knowledge of, you know, what a certain purchase or sell out or buy out of another corporation is. If I want to, you know, a cash out IPO, they already know what that is. And so I think that's a lot about what the Millionaire Real Estate Agent is. It gives you and all your other Keller Williams agents this common knowledge, this common groundwork to speak from, where if somebody says career visioning or think big or aim, like, you now have the knowledge because it's all here and we're speaking from the same book. So, you know, I think this is pretty cool. Now, what I thought about with real estate agents is we don't need an MBA. We need the book. This is your MBA. So if you think of the first 4 years of your real estate career as you're going to college, now the cool thing is every year you can earn while you learn. So if you've been in business, you know, 1 year, it's like your freshman year in college, 2 years, 3 years. And as you get older and longer in the business, now you're going to go after your graduate school, and then you're going to go after your MBA. It's all here though. We give you all the material in advance. So I think that's pretty cool, right? Especially someone who actually flunked out of college, even though I went 5 years. So now I feel like I got the knowledge. All right, let's turn the page here. Or turn the slide. I said turn the page because I'm seeing the book. You know, we're going to turn to page 37 here. And, you know, really, Gary says in this book, there's one thing I've learned in life is that small goals tend to place limits around our potential. And big goals have a tendency to pull us right through the small goals on the way to attaining the big ones. So Gary always says, set big goals, think big, aim high, not to set a little goal, because if you set a little goal, it might take you 3 years to hit it. If you set a big goal, it might take you 3 years to hit it. Go for the big one and just extend the amount of time it takes to get there, yet set the big goal. Because when we set the little goals, then we set a bigger goal afterwards, we have to retool our systems and models. Like our database plan might not be big enough to hit some, we're always redoing it, unless if we set the big system and model, you put it in place and make adjustments along the way versus redoing it. And that costs a lot of money, right? So let's take a look on page 37. We are a system of starting with models. If you notice on the left, The model is the foundation. It's stable, right? We start with the model, and after that, we get creative. We start with the model, and then creativity can come in. So we start with the model, and once we're doing everything we can and netting everything out of that model we can, when we believe, like when we hit a ceiling, that's when you get creative to pull a little bit more out of it. And this is a big piece of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent and everything we teach at the Keller Williams. You know, we are learning, and we are standing on the shoulders of giants in our industry. And these are the shoulders. The models are the shoulders, and it's worked over and over again, and it can work for you as well. Okay. So become a master of this book and these models, and your business and keep growing and growing. MBA coming. I can see it. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next page here. Let's go ahead and take a look at page 39. So one of the things that Gary Keller teaches us, this is called moving from E to P. Do either of you know what E to P stands for? And it's by being through Keller Williams. So I didn't know if you had learned this or not yet. So E stands for entrepreneurial, and P stands for purposeful. So Gary says, if you look down here at the bottom where it says in this chart, natural ceiling of achievement. So we start with, both of us have, both of you and me and Jill, all of us have come in to this business world with what we call your natural ability. So let's say you have a natural ability to look at numbers, Stacy, or Kara, maybe you have a natural ability to connect with people through communication. That natural ability is only going to get you so far. Now, you can take that natural ability, you can get trained in it. Like if you're naturally a great communicator, you can go take language of sales or classes on becoming an even better communicator in what you're great at. And that can break through a new level of that ceiling. Yet, if we never go get training or put the models or systems in place, we hit that ceiling and then our business goes back down. And so until we really work to break through that ceiling of achievement and create purposeful. I am going to be purposeful about learning the conversations around for sale by owners and expireds. I'm going to be purposeful about studying career visioning, so my first hire is a great first hire. So whatever that is, we want to add the learning, the models, the systems, and accountability to break through what we do naturally, so then we can keep breaking through ceilings. And so that's what this book also does. Think big, aim high, and then add the skills, be a professional learner, if you will, right? And he says on page 39 at the top, what I've discovered is that by starting with models, you can push your ceilings higher and eventually break through them. This is when I encourage creativity. So when you push through that ceiling, now you start to get creative. And don't abandon, adapted it. This is where a coach can help a lot. So you take these classes. So the classes are the skimming the surface, right? The coach is going to take you deep into models and accountability. They're going to go deep, and so you can get there faster. All right. Any questions about or thoughts about, this is really the intro of our models and systems. What are you hearing or taking away before we dive into specifics?
I think for me, I have exhausted the models that I know. And I think just like last week, we were talking about, I'm on a team, we have great systems in place. And so it's those little tweaks, though, that are really making a really big impact for me, that align with who I am and how I, my creativity, right? So kind of making them all work together. So
yeah, this is great. Anything to add, Stacy?
Just the the ideas of breaking through that ceiling, right? That, you know, having that foundation through using the models, and then finding which kind of components of the models or the model that works for you with your personality. You know, there's certain things we just don't want to do and we're not good at, but there's things we are good at. So basically playing to those strengths and using the pieces of the model that accentuate those strengths.
Excellent. This is great. These are great. All right, let's move on. Let's dive into these models, these 24 topics, if you will. So the very first one is what we call it a couple things at Keller Williams. You'll hear it called leads, listings, leverage. You'll hear it called the 3L model. And as you see, all of our models a lot of them start with a triangle. So the bottom is the foundation, right? And if you'll turn to page 40, it says right there on the left, the 3 L's, and the first one is leads. And Gary's super specific. To succeed in real estate, you must have client leads. He says, until you have enough leads to meet or exceed your goals, there is no other issue. So, I mean, I think he's super clear right there. If we don't have leads, we don't have a business. So if, you know, it's like don't pass go. So if you do not have enough leads in your business, then right here is where you start tomorrow morning. And you don't pass go till you have enough leads in your business. And that's really because you can have the smartest book and you can have the smartest computer. If you have no leads to put anybody into it, you have no business. And, you know, Kara's going for the $1 million, so we need a lot of leads. Okay. Now, of these, so we start with leads. Now go to the second L is listings. If you look over on page 41, listings, it says listings are high leverage, maximum earning opportunities in our industry. And by the way, these are seller listings. Now I wrote at the bottom of mine in the margin, buyers are low leverage, limiting income opportunity. So buyers or sellers, if you can focus on one area first, which one are you going to focus on? Sellers.
Sellers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sellers. And so part of, you know, following the foundational pieces of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, our business is focused on leads and we're looking for seller listing leads. See, we know that when you take the seller listing leads, enough buyers show up. So we never put our systems and models around the buyers, looking for buyers, especially as a single agent. We always focus on going for the seller listing leads. Now, if you turn the page to page 42, it says leverage. And, you know, the first paragraph, I think, really says it. He says, we've all heard that time is money. Well, that simply isn't true. In fact, it's one of the worst mental maps perpetrated by knowledgeable people. The truth is that time does not always translate into money. Those who work the longest hours are not always those who earn the most money. So we want to focus on leverage. Now, if you look over here at page 43, it says there's a square there at the top left of page 43. Leverage answers these three questions. Who's going to do it? How will they do it? What will they do with it? It answers people, systems, and tools. So when you feel like you're hitting that level of achievement, right? And you're doing all that you can do, even then we don't get creative. We look at over here, leverage. Would a people solve this? Would a system solve this? Or would a tool solve this? And that's what leverage does. Now let's go to the next one. And I will always share a couple of these and then stop at the right place, right? So we've really covered this. Leads, you know, we already highlighted these. Let's go to the next one. Listings and people. All right. Now let's pass the leverage one. Okay. Now, let's go to page 44. And Gary says there are 4 stages of growth here. And so, this is one where, Kara, especially, that you're going to look at. The very first thing we do within that model, right, within that 3L model, is we have to think a million. Like, we have to think the way that a millionaire real estate agent thinks. So we're asking the questions and completing the models the way a millionaire real estate agent thinks. And we give you those ways here in a moment. And then you earn the $1 million. Now, once you earn the $1 million, now your business grows to you're working towards netting $1 million in your pocket. And then once you're netting that $1 million a year, this book actually helps you with getting out of working in the business to working on the business. So other people are working for you and you're receiving $1 million without that work. I mean, there is still 20% work, yet it's 80% receiving. At that point, you're consulting with your team. You're not doing the work. You're training and consulting versus doing the work, and somebody else is doing the work. You train and consult them. And so that's really the path. So, Gary says, commit the foundational model to memory, draw it on the back of a business card, stick it in your wallet. And the very first thing we have to do is think $1 million, right? So let's go to this next page. Within all of this, there are the 6 common myth understandings. Now, this would be a section in your workbook that I would read. If you look, it's actually page, in here, it's through page 61, yet you can start on page 47 and go all the way to page 61. These are the myths. Everything from, the first myth is I can't do it. And the truth is, until you try, you can't possibly know what you can or can't do. So I love these myths. This is really about mindset in this section. All right. Yet the one that we really focus on for this class is on page 61. Having a goal, and here's the myth, having a goal and not fully realizing it is a negative thing. Gary has shared with us as coaches that he has never hit a goal in the year that he set the goal to hit it by. Now, he's hit most of the goals in real estate that he set. Some of them he hit 10 years later. Some of them he hit in a couple years. Some of them were 20 years. So what's interesting is that myth is having a goal and not hitting it. It's a bad thing. He says the truth is having a goal and not trying to achieve it is a negative thing. So fear of failure is so common, it even has its own phobia. You can see it here on page 61. What's it called? Kakaracrophophobia. Yeah, I don't even know how to say it. Okay. Yet we can read and I'm sure all of us have seen, most successful people have failed multiple times. It's those who quit at the attempt who are the true failure, right? Okay, so let's take a look here, as we've gotten started, right, about this 3L model. Any questions or thoughts about the 3L model before we go forward? We good? And anytime, ladies, you can ask a question. Like this is very fluid, right? Interactive for sure. All right, let's take a look at the next slide, Jill. And I don't know that you need to go to page 294, yet I thought it was important to include this in our slide deck. When we say the word try, a lot of times people say try means we're presupposing failure. We ask you to redefine it here or change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. We call it the real you. Most people will never know how far they can go because they never work at how far can they go before they fail. And then the next time, if you get to here, you're going to get a little further and you're going to get a little further and you're going to get a little further, right? I bet all of you have shoes that you have to tie, like tie the laces. I bet your parents didn't say, we'll just give you Velcro for the rest of your life if you didn't get it right on the first try, correct? So, the important point about this is to keep moving first, like keep driving it. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so we're going to dive into, on these topics, the first part of this pyramid, which is think. We have to think a million. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Jill. All right, so if you turn to page 71, in this section, Gary takes and breaks up the 9 ways a millionaire real estate agent thinks. If you look at the top, the first 2 are really about mindset. And the numbers 3 through 9 are really a lot more about action and things that we have to do. So that first beginning is really about 1/3 of this is about attitude and perspective. Like, am I going to think like a millionaire real estate agent? That is an attitude. Or am I going to think like an agent that receives whatever comes my way? Right. And the market, I can't make any changes to this market. The market's bad, so I'm not going to do anything about it. That's really about these first 2. And in breaking this down, he says we think in these 9 ways, yet we have to start with the first 2. If we don't start for the first 2, so many agents go straight to what we have to do, and they miss the big why. I also like to, next to why, I'll write in my book, I have written in my book, purpose. What's my purpose for doing this? Like, Kara, what's important to you about netting $1 million in real estate? It sounds nice. And what's the purpose of this, right? Now, these final 7, think possibility, think action, think without fear, progress, are no less important, but tend to all support the first 2. So we got to get super clear on the first 2. So the first one is, what's important about this to me? And the second one is, which model am I going to go after? I got to think big. I got to think about my someday goal of where I'm desiring to go versus a 3-month goal. I'd like to buy a new car. We got to think big term. I'd like to be spending 20 days of the month on a beach and 10 days training and consulting my team. Oh, that'd be fun. So we got to think big so that we can go small, and then these others support that. Big businesses bring big focus and big energy, for sure. So let's take a look at this exercise on the next slide, Jill, if you'll turn here. And I believe you have this in your handout. Take a moment here, and I'd like you to start writing in your whys or the purpose. What are the reasons? It could be people. It could be things you want to do. It could be things you'd like to have. What is it that's driving you? Is it a feeling that's driving you? Because, and I'll give you a minute, I'll be quiet here in a moment, I promise. Gary says that it's usually not one big why. It's usually a lot of whys that create that purpose. So if somebody says, like, my only why is to, earn money, well, that's usually a fallacy. That there's probably other reasons. Like, what's important about that money? Well, I want the safety and security for my family, or I'd like the lifestyle that it allows, which isn't about the money, it's about the lifestyle. The money funds the lifestyle. So he says most of us have multiple whys. So, you might put one over here for, you could put a whole lot more than these down. Yeah, I'll give you a minute to start writing down, what's the why behind why you'd like to succeed in real estate. Now, as you're looking at these, you can start to organize these whys and place the most important ones closest to the top of the list. So I'll give you an example. Let's start wrapping up our list. I'll give you an example. So I travel and teach classes. I teach Bold across the country. Carrie, you've been to Bold, right? Yeah, we were in Bold together. Okay, just making sure. um, I teach these classes. I mean, I'm on the road a lot. I love a certain lifestyle. I like to meet new people. I like to learn from new people. Seeing how different people live differently, even in the United States. Like right now, I'm in Wayne, New Jersey, is very different than Lexington, Kentucky, where I'm at on Mondays. On Thursdays, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm in Albany, New York. And when I look at all these different places, like I'm fascinated by, the different accents, the different cultures that show up in my class, the leaders that I get to learn from, the way real estate works differently. All these things are so fascinating to me, right? I definitely like the income that it provides for the lifestyle. And so when I put all those together, I love teaching and pouring into others and helping people have a transformation in their business, big and small, right? On a lot of different levels. So all those things pour into my big why is to help as many people transform their businesses in the biggest way possible. Like that's my big why, yet it's all these little ones that really feed into that bigger why. And Gary says, if you're not super clear, start marching in the general direction and you're already on the path. It'll start to become clearer. So as you're looking at this, what is starting to show up for you? Like you don't have to have it totally. Yet anybody willing to share what their big why is or what you think it's in the direction of?
I've always had a heart to coach women, and I've had a dream in my heart called To Be Her Now. Like, what does it take to be her now and every day, the person we long to be? And I've put some of that into practice already, but my vision is much bigger than what I do currently. And so really growing that. And then a lot of the things I wrote down feed into that too. So
yeah, that is, oh, wow. I love this. This is cool. How about you, Stacy? Would you like to add to that?
Throughout my lifetime, I've been very service oriented in the sense of, helping others and, getting involved in seeing them where they're at, what their needs are, and trying to help in some way. And so just helping people, find that ideal home or find that ideal buyer, right? To be able to move forward in whatever their dreams are. The one listing that I had, again, they were a distant cousin to me, but a close friend, and older couple. Their family was grown, and they needed to downsize. I mean, it was a need that they had even more than a want. After we had that big freeze here a couple of years ago, they realized that they had too big of a house to manage. And so trying to help them in that process, and even with their resistiveness, right, to take family pictures off the wall or do the things that we know that they should do to be able to get that sale, just being able to coach them through that process so that they arrived at those decisions and were able to move forward in the process. Even sitting down with them at one point and saying, hey, are you really ready to leave this house that you built and raised your family in? Is now the right time? And once they could think that through and answer yes, then things started to move forward. And so that in and of itself, but the foundation or the bottom line of my big why is I got to have an income, right? And
Yeah.
I'm moving towards retirement, but I'm not there yet, and I need to still have an income. So, you know, to feed my life, to have shelter, clothing, food, all those basics, but then to feed my lifestyle, the things that I want and desire to do. So all of those things kind of play into it. Now, I'm going to share a secret.
It won't be secret anymore if you do.
that I, you know, I spent 35 years, and especially the last 10 years, just burning that candle at both ends, and realized that more and more things that were important to me were getting crowded out. And so because I felt like, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose this job. And guess what happened? In the end, it didn't save my job. When push came to shove and COVID hit, I was the person, my position was the person that you know, the one that they did not need. So with that in mind, you know, I realized, you know, what was I doing that for? What was I working until 1 o'clock in the morning for? And there was no loyalty there, right, for me. So and so I wanted to have, you know, my own business and be my own boss. Now, the secret part of that is that there are days in the last few months that I've thought I'm ready to fire myself. So because I'm not doing what I need to be doing to make this work.
That can be a rude awakening, huh?
Yeah.
So you know, I'd highly recommend the next time Bold comes around, Stacy, take Bold. It's an amazing program that gets you into production fast, holds you accountable. And as your business grows, always look for ways to be held accountable, either productivity coaching within a market center, or maybe
I'm doing that. I'm actually just started that. So
good. That's because accountability with all of this causes it to go up faster. Yeah, I mean, I am, you know, all these things can drive our why, and always tuning into that. So like in the morning, you know, setting up like, all right, today, okay, let's be honest. I've been on the road since Sunday. I got home last night about 9 o'clock, which was really like midnight on East Coast time, right? My schedule's messed up. And I woke up this morning and my first thought wasn't like, oh my gosh, I get to teach this class. If we're honest, right? Like, just like you.
Oh,
and
come on, Denise. Just a little part of you was stoked. Come on.
Well, now that I've met you, I'm committed to you, right? And I remember what's important about me doing this. What is this doing for me and for others and my family and my big why? Oh yeah, get out of bed. You got a fun day planned. And that's how we use this. We tie into this, especially on the days where we might feel like doing something different, or we might be fearful of, you know, not of trying and getting it wrong or failing. And then that's where we pull back to what is our purpose. So we get up and go and do this. And you've noticed so far, we spent a lot more time on mindset and thinking than we've told you anything about doing. Because the doing becomes easier when we get the why.
Well, the thing I'm piecing together 2 years in is the doing is easy. It's the mindset that's hard. And I'm literally like, some of the habits that I've been trying to accumulate for 2 years are finally coming together because I got over myself. Like, it's so much mindset.
So much mindset. All right, let's move on. Okay, I think we've done a good start here. Let's move on to the next page. Okay, so from there, so now you got it, what I'm going to do. Then you start deciding how you're going to do it. What is your value proposition? And you can see this on page 94 and 95. And it gives you some ways to start looking at this. Beyond their sense of purpose, the very best agents are able to translate this purpose and the reason people should hire them into a specific set of services. As in, let's say that you are going to be the agent who sells listings based upon a 7th level open house. Now, I'm not going to get into what a 7th level open house is yet. You're doing 4 to 6 open houses per month. You door knock on 200 doors on the front before the house. You door knock on 200 doors after the open house, and you send flyers and price reduction flyers. And maybe that's your model. That would be your value proposition. Or maybe you're a luxury agent and you're going to master marketing to luxury referral networks across the country and everything that would lead into. Or perhaps you're going to work with veterans or women, women investors, wealth for women, right? Whatever that is, like, you have to determine what your value proposition is, why they're going to hire you, and what set of services are you going to provide. So you can see over here at the top of page 95 is value for sellers, and the bottom is value for buyers. Now, I'm going to recommend that you start with, and don't pass go till you master the top, the seller, because of that 3L model, right? Leads, listings, seller listings, and leverage. And so, top 10. Now, we've identified that with buyers and with sellers, there's 10 areas to master and consider in including into your value proposition. So, like, if you look at the top of page 95, let's do a little be honest here with yourself. You can write it in the book if you have a pen or off to the side. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to ask you to rate yourself in each of these areas. Like, where would I start, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being awesome, like, I got it, I'm super smart in this area, or 1 being, I've got some area to learn, some skill to go after. How do you do at the needs analysis with a seller? Helping them clarify their motivation. Just give yourself a scale of 1 to 10. Are you able to quickly determine the seller's timetable, even when they say, well, I can sell at any time? Number 2, rate yourself on pricing. Do you know how to price a property in any market so that it would sell in the first 30 days? Now, I know that this market our market was strong. And if I said 30 days a year ago, you'd be like, what's wrong with you? Can't you get the thing sold? Yet a normal market is a home will sell in somewhere between 90 to 120 days. That's normal. So a great agent could get it sold in the first 30 days in any market. So give yourself a number there. And then number 3, property preparation, advising on repairs and improvements that are going to cause the home to sell for more money versus, one that would just be a wash. So why do it, right? It's wasting time and effort. Okay. Number 4, marketing strategy. Do you know what marketing plans cause a home to sell? And how do you receive the buyers? Because now you have a marketing plan around your sellers. Number 5 is offers. Like, do you know how in a multiple offer situation, how to evaluate the offers, right? Go ahead and rate yourself. And number 6, negotiating. Do you always say, oh my gosh, Stacy, we're so excited, we got an offer. And while it's not list price, I think it's a strong offer. Let me know, would you like to take it? Denise, it's 60,000 under. I know, and it's the only one we have today. Would you like to take it? Versus, I think you should hold out for more. And then getting it sold, preparing the post-contract work list, that's everything. And you can sort of include this. You can rate yourself on number 8 at the same time. Coordinating the documents, like this would be the transaction coordination. Now, if you're hiring a transaction coordinator already, I'd give yourself a 10 on there if they're doing a good job because you delegated it out. You used leverage, right? I'll put it this way. I started real estate in 1992. I haven't closed my own transactions since 1995. I've had a transaction coordinator the entire time. Kara, you'll get a kick out of this. About 2 years ago, I didn't have an assistant at the moment. And I had to reduce the price on my own property that I had listed in the multiple listing service. And I had to walk down the hall and ask somebody how to reduce a price in MLS. I had never done it. That's called leverage, right? So I give myself a 10 on that if I have somebody who's able to do it. Closing, number 9. Reviewing those closing documents. Do you know what that means? Last minute items, completing that transaction, right? And then of course, post closing, I would put on there asking for referrals. So we keep our repeat and referral customers. So when you look at all these areas, I want you to highlight the 3, like highlight or circle the 3 of where you believe starting would give you the best response when it comes to your seller proposition, your value proposition. Let's get some insights here. What are you marking there? So I get a feel. I always like to know where you guys are at, where you ladies are at.
I think mine ties in with were you going to go, Stacy? I'm sorry. I just saw you're unmuted.
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think for tying in with the sellers class last time, one of the biggest takeaways for me was a lot of the talk that we did about subconscious earning of trust with a client. And so a lot of the pre-qual conversations have been done by my team lead, because they're her database. Ultimately, she stepped out of production and we're taking over her database. And so the handoff was really shaky, and we both knew it was really shaky, but we weren't locking in appointments the way she had been. And so I actually just got a lead from her the other day, and we had talked about those takeaways. So to answer your direct question, needs analysis is where I gave myself a 10. She handed off the lead, and I was able to have that pre-qual conversation with him, and we have our appointment today at 2. And it was very natural and very easy, but because we weren't shoving me in as like okay, now Lisa's dropping you and you're taking over, Kara, is the way it felt, I think. Yeah. I would say that now I would rate myself a 10 at that beginning piece, because I'm able to build that rapport.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you so much for the feedback. A lot of times I don't hear how people implement it, right? So where's your area of opportunity then?
We also have a transaction coordinator, and I've had one since I came on the team. So I gave myself a 0 at coordinate and supervise document preparation, because I literally hand the contract over.
I'd give yourself a 10 for that.
Yeah, I do a great job handing it over.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, and we have a phenomenal coordinator, but if I'm rating just my own, I would say reviewing closing documents. I'm not always, I lean heavily on my transaction coordinator for that, but I'm recognizing I would like to feel more confident in what I'm looking at, so that I can also be 2 pairs of eyes that are looking. So,
and you know, what's interesting about that is that would also help you go over and do number 1 and 2. So it would help with the pricing if you understood what those closing costs were going to be and what the seller has coming up that you might not even be aware of. That when they say, I want a certain price, and you also know that they owe blank, blank, and blank, you can have that conversation earlier. Yeah, so that's awesome. Great job. Okay, how about for you, Stacy? Where's your areas of opportunity?
Yeah, I was going to start on the other scale. So the low end of the scale, pricing strategy, definitely, and marketing strategy. Just trying to figure out, again, just learning from someone who's experienced like you as to where do I go to learn these things or pick this information up, right? And understand. I mean, I can do a comparative analysis, but at the end of the day, you're always going to have a client that thinks their house is worth as much or more than the one next door. So just looking again at that pricing strategy and then the marketing strategy for different properties. So
absolutely. And Stacy, you were not on our Win with Sellers class, were you?
No. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to send you, and Jill, you'll have to remind me to do this because we're like 2 hours before the end of this class. I'm going to send you my pricing strategy information. Okay. It
Okay.
includes, this is what we use on our team. It's the pricing strategy. It's the price reduction script. And, like, Kira, did you get a chance to read through those, that I sent over to you last time?
Yeah, they're awesome. I haven't learned them yet, but I had read through them prior to my appointment and used quite a bit from it in
Awesome.
chatting with. Yeah.
Yeah. So while I'm not teaching it to you, you can read it. You're a smart lady, Stacy. So like, this is literally what we say verbatim and we give, and like, it's amazing. It works really well. So that's going to be
Okay.
a start. And I even have a section on there, how to do a CMA, and it's really in a challenging market. Okay. So it'll give
Okay.
you a start.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
And
My pleasure.
if I can interject and say, I think Denise, you rotate out that class. Is that right?
I do. It'll come back in 4 months. Yeah.
I'll be your teacher's pet for a hot second and say, Stacy, if you get the opportunity to take that class, it was mind-blowingly good.
So 4 months from now, I'm going to be looking for it 4 months from now.
Yeah, or
Right.
or have your team, your market center bring me in and I'll teach it in person. That'd be
Okay.
even more fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. I love it. I love it. They're awesome there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on. So that's a piece of it for sure. And we spent a little bit of time on these. So we're going to fly through a couple of these next ones.
I have a question. Are we going to take a quick break at any time?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that if you guys, ladies, would like a 5-minute break and then we'll come back.
That would be great.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And Jill, you too, if you need to take a break, let's do that. I'll stay on here. Okay. All righty, ladies, we are moving on to topic number 6. Topic number 6 is, you will hear this a lot within Keller Williams. It probably is not a new concept to you. And with that said, it is one that we use a lot within Keller Williams, and it's called the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. You can follow along on page 98. Yet what it really teaches us is that time and effort on your 20% of the activities that matter most gives us or delivers 80% of our results. Is that a new concept to either of you? Not really. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's taught in business in many, many places, and what Gary really would like us to get clear on is that doing a lot of things is never a substitute for doing the right things. There are many agents that are busy. Are they doing the right things that are focusing on it? And like everything else, real estate has its 20%. And it's what we just taught. It's the 3 L's. The leads, listings, and leverage. And that's really where we spend our time. Like that's our 20% that's going to create 80% of our results. So the more that we can spend time on leads, listings, and leverage, the faster our business is going to grow. And nothing is more important to a viable business than that model. So I think the next slide, Jill, really says the same thing. And yet, yeah, so we go back to that. Leads, it's our lead generation. Listings, it's seller listings. And leverage, it's either a who, a how, or a tool, right? And so, okay, so let's go to the next slide though. Like to dig in. We covered the think like a millionaire real estate agent. Now we're going into the section of the topics on earn a million. So it doesn't mean we're keeping $1 million in our pocket, right? This is grossing or earning $1 million in real estate. So let's go to the next topic. I think it's number 7. Yep, here we go. Number 7. And go ahead and turn to page 107 through 109. All right. So now once you have that foundation in, there are 8 categories that we track in our millionaire real estate agent to earn $1 million. So these 2 sets of numbers are your goal numbers and then your actual numbers. goals and actual. And the top agents are actually tracking their actual numbers on a weekly basis and sometimes even a daily basis. So the faster that you can get to the point where everything's like, where am I in comparison to my goal? Where am I in comparison to my goal? I heard the head, Jen Davis, she is our MAPS, she is the vice president of MAPS coaching. And she went as a buyer's agent, closing like 17 transactions a year. Within 3 years, she was closing 180 transactions a year. Now, what's interesting is there's her first 4 years in the business, she never did more than 17 transactions. And then all of a sudden she went like this. Well, she studied the millionaire real estate agent model, and she just was like, she got her purpose, really excited about it, and she went like to here. Something she said, though, the other day on a call, really, I thought meant a lot. She said, I never went more than a week of being off track. So she knew her number, right? To get to that, what did she have to close per month? She probably had to close like 12 a month, 12 to 13 a month. So that means she had to be putting 4 per week pended. And if she ever went more than 1 week without 4, then she would go make it up right away. Like she just never get off track on those numbers. And so we have to know what the number is and where we are. So let's go to the next slide, Jill. And, she said, you're in business, you're treating it like a game. You're no different, right? You and everyone on the team need to know the score in the key areas at all times. And so, I'm curious, ladies, as a newer agent, a lot of times what we're working for is our next commission check. And so what we talk about is knowing our numbers to get to the big someday goal. So take a look at page 109, and I think that's the next slide, Jill, is page 109. These are the 8 categories of the MREA that we track. Number of leads generated. And if you notice, it's leads, listings, right? Of the 3L model. We track how many leads we've generated at all times. I'll give you an example. I was coaching a buyer's agent out of Atlanta, and this buyer's agent knew that she had to have 17 signed buyer agency agreements at all time to hit her goal of 75 transactions for the year. Now they had a pre-agreed, on her team, they knew who a hot lead was and what it took to get somebody to sign a buyer's agency agreement. If at any time she only had 14, then she knew that her next 2 weeks numbers were going to be lower. So we focused on always having a minimum of 17 signed buyer agencies, because based upon her conversion numbers, not anybody else's, we knew that that would net her the 75 transactions. We could never go more than 1 week of too far off that number of 17, or else we knew it would show up. And the other one is listings. So seller listings. Now she tracked buyer listings. She was on a big team, yet you're going to track seller listings. How many listings do you have to have at all times to hit your goal? Now in the last year, so like, let's say last year, you set a goal of 25 transactions and you wanted it primarily through listings. Well, if you took 25 listings last year, you would have minimum of 25 sales. In the past, in a stable market, we know that the number of listings you take will equal the number of deals that you do. So in this next, I'm going to say 6 to 9 months, the way our market is turning, the number of listings you take will equal the number of deals that you do. We'll see at the end of this 6 to 9 months where the market is. Now, I was in real estate in 2008, and I had to take 4 listings to get 1 sale in Arizona. It was a tough market, let me tell you, all right? Yet I knew my number. If I wasn't like, I mean, literally, I took hundreds of listings like to hit my number, because that was the number needed to hit the goal. The goal was more important than the number of listings I needed to take. I didn't go, oh, I can't take that number of listings. I'm like, no, how many do I need to take so I hit the goal? because the numbers drive us to the goal. Contracts written, of course, we're tracking that, and then how many close. So I'll give you another example. Here is coaching a young woman. And when I looked at her numbers, she was only closing 70% of every contract written. And I said, hey, you know, have you noticed that there's an opportunity here? And she goes, well, we're doing all that we can. She had a team. And I said, really? Because, you know, that number is a little low. I would expect, you've been in the business 5 years, that you might be closer to 85 to 90% of every contract you write closes. And she says, well, you know, my transaction coordinator on my team and my admin on my team, they're very young and they don't do well if people are not nice to them. What? She goes, so I've given them permission to fire people if they're not nice. I'm like, no, we're going to train them up to handle communication skills. Like, trust me, welcome to my world. And her numbers. So we started working on the skill of her team, and her numbers went up to 90% conversion. They were doing the same amount of work, yet earning less money. If we're not tracking our numbers, though, we can't look for those opportunities. Is this starting to make sense? Money, like we always want to track our money, what's coming in and what's going out. People, systems, tools. If I go back to money, you could also write next to that expenses or red light, green light. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Yet, is your money, anything that you spend, always giving you a 4 times return or higher? All right, we're always looking for a 3 to 4 times return or higher. If it's not bringing you that, I'm going to say cut it. All right, cut that expense. All right. People, systems, tools, like these are the areas that we're tracking. People would be like if you have a team. All right. Are they bringing in the number of transactions that you set the goal to do? Now, I'll give you another example here. I was coaching a team, and the team's goals were 200 transactions a year. The Rainmaker was doing 80 transactions themselves. Okay, one person was doing 80 transactions themselves, and they had another 7 agents who were only closing 50 transactions in a year. And I said to him, I said, like, man, we need to either, like, what are you going to do? He goes, well, the team's talent is only to go get this 50 transactions. And I said, well, wait a minute, we're not changing the goal based upon the talent of the team. We either have to raise the talent on the team, if that's possible, or we have to go hire more buyer's agents. He said, well, they don't want they don't want me to bring more on. They say there's not enough deals for them. And I said, oh, I know numbers. You're bringing in 80 listings a year. There's more than enough sales there to get you to the 200. So we either have to change a person or raise the person. That's an example of tracking the people, right? Now, and I get that people are more than a commission check, and we are talking about the model here. Fair enough. Okay. All right. So, and then we always track our personal development and education. And ladies, here's one thing I've noticed over the years. Agents who take one outside training a year. When I say outside training, what I'm talking about is you have to do something where you leave your business, you step out of your business to go get training. Okay. When they go to like one mega camp or one bold a year or one family reunion a year, their business is good and it does grow their business. They have a focus on personal development, learning, and education, yet it gives them sort of this average realtor return on investment. When an agent steps out of their business, like maybe it's coaching and mega camp, like they step out to work on their business 2 times a year, their business definitely grows. Like it starts growing past where they were at. When they get out of their business 3 to 4 times per year, these are the agents who businesses grow the fastest. So what my recommendation is, whatever it is you do, you find a way to get out of your business and work on it 3 to 4 times a year. And that will get you to the wins the fastest, to the goals. All right. A little side tip that isn't in this material, and it's one of those insights that I've seen for sure. Any questions? Like, what questions do you have about the numbers or any of this section we've just covered here? Seller listings, lead generation, the 3L model, anything like that.
So I have a question about that last point, that personal development and education. Is it strictly related
Real
to
estate?
real estate, or are you talking about education development of all kinds?
I'm really speaking about all kinds, Stacy. If you're going to go 4 times a year, I would say at least 3 should be real estate, because
Okay.
it's your business, right?
Right.
And yet, maybe you're going to go to a spiritual retreat, or you're going to go to your favorite author and it's a 3-day retreat on his book, and it's time management. Like, I think that any kind of working outside of your business, because there's working in your business and working on your business, right? Sometimes we have to take a step out. Now this class is a really great way, right? And yet you're going to go back today and probably do your quote job in your business. And do we forget about it, right? This is like, so a lot of my top agents will have a coach. They'll speak with their coach once a week. That's good. In my opinion, that's good for one of those times. Even though it's for the whole year, you're taking time out of your day and you're working on your business every week. To me, that counts as one of those, right?
So one of the things that I did, during my layoff, and as I was doing real estate, I also took courses and became a certified coach, the foundation, as well as then the executive or higher level coach. Yeah. And so I'm actually attending an event later this month for 3 days.
There you go.
It's a coaching event. So
yeah. Because Stacy, are you like me in the sense, like when you hear these things, it's like we coach ourselves first, and then through that experience, we become better with others. Yeah.
Well, and I've even sat myself down and said, okay, played both roles, right, to try to, figure out and get myself to realize what do I need to be working on here? What do I need to be doing to focus?
Yes, that is a perfect example. All right, so let's go on. Let's look at the next model, number 8. Let's go ahead and turn our slide here. Let's keep going here. We've pretty much covered this in so many words. Okay, so let's go to this next section. We're going to cover are the 4 fundamental business models of the millionaire real estate agent. And the easiest way to remind you or to remember this is this right here, ELBO. Economic, lead generation, budget, and organizational. I had the biggest challenge until somebody gave that to me, and I'm like, oh, thank you. Right? The ELBO model, or it's our 4 models. So we cover these 4, and we're going to talk about each of these: economic, lead gen, budget, and organizational. So let's go ahead. You can look at page 120 through 122. The economic model, at the top of page 121, it's a formula that shows you how to plug in specific numbers you'll have to achieve in order to hit specific areas and hit a specific income. Now, the lead generation model is a specific approach to generate the number of leads that you need. The budget model outlines budget categories you can track and the percentage of your gross income that will go towards each of those. And the organizational model is really, it's about leverage. these are the specific staff positions you'll hire and the order that you hire them in. So when I shared earlier that we don't compare our insides to somebody else's outsides, now we have agents who are a 7th level, what we call millionaire real estate agent. And we have others whose goal is to get to the 4th level, and all are fine. You want to define what your big goal and model is and work towards that. So let's go ahead and skip to the next one. Okay. Let's go right after this one. Okay. Basically, Warren Buffett says, whatever model you study, read it at least 12 times. Okay. That's all that one was. So number 8, the economic model. Let's turn to page 129. Economic model is an equation for success, and you focus on 3 things, and we're going to cover each of these. So let's go to the next slide if you're on page 130. Okay. So what you're looking at here, and we've included one of these in your handout, I believe, a blank one for you, because you can look at this model in your book. Yet what you want to first decide, you'll see there's the 2 sides. You have to decide what percentage of your business will be sellers and what percentage of your business will be buyers. Now, as a newer agent, anything up to about 24 transactions a year, the model recommends that you're 50-50, 12 buyer sales and 12 seller listings sold. And then once you grow from there as a single agent, you could even get up to like maybe 35, 40 transactions a year as a single agent, yet you might have more like 70% listings sold and 30% buyer sales. Because there's only, as one person, you can only work with so many buyers. You can manage a whole lot more listings though, okay? They say list to last. Work with buyers to fund your listing career for the rest of your life. Are some good rules of thumb. So as we're a newer agent, those listings or those buyers definitely bring the income in, yet we want to set the system and model on listings, seller listings. Okay, so the economic model does 3 things, all right? It shows you where your money comes from. So if you wanted to write this down or highlight middle of page 129, that's your gross revenue. It also tells you where your money goes. That's your expenses. And then what's left is your net income. And, you know, what happens with a lot of agents is they work really hard. They spend it really hard. They're not sure where their money's going to come from because they're not lead generating consistently. And they don't know which costs are critical. You know, they don't know, is their money earning them that 3 to 4 times return or more? And yet if they get 1 or 2 deals a year from it, they might feel busy, so they don't want to let it go. And I'm going to say, let it go, right? They also don't know how much is left at the end of the year when they don't do this. So we start with knowing, what are we going to focus on? Because what we're going to focus on is going to create a lot of different parts of our business plan, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay. And I'm not going to go through this. This is really, there is an entire class called Agent Financials. It's a full day class. And to believe that I could even cover it here is not, it's really not possible. Yet I wanted to show you the section of the book where you can dig into this. And also you could take Agent Financials. Okay. Because there is a financial for absolutely everything, as you see here. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to the next page with this though. Okay. Or the next slide, Jill. I know it's taken a while to download there. Now, for yourself, you have in here, I put in here, as I said, a setting goals exercise. Now, have the 2 of you taken a business planning course for 2023 yet? Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you have Stacy and Kara. If you can get yourself into a business planning clinic, anywhere in the market center, I would highly recommend you do that. Or maybe your team is going to do one. All right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times teams put one together, and that's really what we're tracking. How many buyers, how many sellers, what are our conversion ratios, and everything that goes into that. So knowing our numbers is super important. Let's go to the next slide. The lead generation model. If you'll turn to page 134. So from this page, I want you to see up here at the top, the very first paragraph, or the end of the paragraph from the page before. On the buyer side, the statistics, or pardon me, I'll read it from the page before. Buyer and seller profiles tend, according to NAR, 76% of all sellers contacted only one agent, and 16% contacted just two agents. And I'll share with you, this was a 2002 statistic, and the current statistic is only 1% off of that. So while the market has changed, the way we do business has changed, the numbers haven't changed. So in your lead generation model, what I'm going to share right here is that it's database. You've heard the word, everything's about our database. And what we know is that 76% of the people in there are going to only interview one agent, and 67% of sellers are referred to that one agent. So we want the database so we can be giving value to the database so we get the referrals. Like, that's really what this is. Your lead generation model, if you're doing anything under 40 transactions a year, you start with database first. People you know. Now I have a slide. Let's show this slide, this next slide, Jill. Turn to page, I'm gonna have you look at page 137 real quick. You'll see this in your workbook. You'll see this, these circles in page 137. This is really our strategic model for lead generating. And I think I have a slide on this, Jill. There we go. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So if you take a look at this, and maybe we need to make this a little bit bigger on the screen, or do you ladies have this in your book?
Yes, it's in the
Awesome.
book.
Okay, so if you look in the book, because I think this is where I'd like you to take some notes, that allied resources, that one-on-one, if you write into that, like, this is where you want to grow your business. Your database that you have will tell you how much business is possible. Basically, for every 16 people you have as an allied resource in the middle, these are people who know you, like you, trust you, respect you, might consider sending you business. Out of every 16 people in that middle, you can receive a deal a year. So if you want 10 deals, get 160 people in that group. Like, it's there. The business is there every single year. Now, around that, okay, this MET group, these are people you know. These are people you know, they haven't given you business yet they might consider giving you business. You definitely know them, okay? So those first two areas can bring you up to 12% return per year, 15% return. I've even had an agent have up to 18% return every year from the number of people in those first two categories. So that's where you want to focus. That's your 20% that will bring you the 80% return. After you've mastered it, like you can't receive any more deals from those areas, then you're going to go to those two outside ones, the people you don't know. Maybe those are open house leads. So even though you know an open house lead, do you really know an open house lead? I wouldn't say so. I mean, if we're honest, right? Like, they don't know you. They didn't talk about you at Sunday morning pancakes, right? So I would say that this group is different and receives a lower return. You have to have 50 people for every one sale in this group, and you have to be pretty intentional about it. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. And this is all in the workbook, and I'm going to show you where to receive it. This is all part of how much do I have to lead generate to these groups to receive the return. So for your METS group, those allied resources and those METS, when you put a new person into that group, then you're going to do what's called an 8x8. 8 contacts in 8 weeks. 8 contacts in 8 weeks. And it's broken down for you on page 146. And so basically it's contact them by phone or text. The next week, send them an item of value. Contact them by phone or text. The next week, send them an item of value. And you go back and forth like that. Basically, it gives you some ideas here for 8 weeks. Once you're done with the 8 weeks and they haven't said, take your list, then you're going to put them into your regular 36 touch. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So the 36 touch, if you look in your workbook on page 147, it says 33. Just cross that out. It's now 36 because 33 wasn't enough. No, just kidding. Yet this is something that your market center teaches very, very well. You can Command has these touch programs in here. Between the 8 and 8 and this 36 touch though, here's what I'm going to share. The one that is most important are the 4 conversations with them per year. 4 two-way conversations per year, and all that marketing on the back end turns into the highest returns. If you contact them 0 times per year with this marketing, it'll bring you a return, just not the highest. If you do all the marketing on the back end and you call them once a year, it's interesting, your return goes up to like 5 to 6%. Call them 2 times per year, your return goes up to like 7 to 9%, depending on the conversation. Call them 3 times a year, it goes up to around 9 to 10%. Call them 4 times per year, and that's where the 12, 15, 18% return in that area shows up from. So the phone call is in direct proportion to the amount of return you're going to receive from it. And what I'll say to coaching clients is, look, if you're not calling them at all this year, at least call them once, and it's going to grow. And then from there, maybe you get to be a sophomore or a junior at calling them, and you call them, like, work into it. Whatever you do, though, make it part of your plan. So before we move on to the unmets, what questions is this created for you on this section? This is a pretty important point of pretty much our business is our database.
So basic question, who are these people? Are they the people that are in my contact list that I know, friends, family that I send Christmas cards to regularly? Or are they people that I've encountered through different, activities out there in the community, or my dry cleaner, or my person that works on my car? Who are these people?
The answer to that is yes. Everything you just said is yes. And that's where this is definitely, Stacy, where we are skimming the surface right here. I'm gonna highly recommend you take Bold, because we worked 7 weeks on creating this database. And there's other classes you can take as well. Yet they are, if you turn to, let me find it here. So how I like to say it is, go to your phone, go to your social media, look for every group or club or organization you've ever been a part of. And my test for it is, if I walk into a restaurant and I see Jill sitting across the room, and I'd be like, hey, how are you? And I remember Jill's name by the time I got into the car. Now that's Denise's test, okay? Because names are sometimes a challenge. I would be like, that person needs to be in my database. If it's an open house lead that I talked to one time and they texted back, that is not one of my METS database. I would put them in the unmets database, because the return on that is going to be a lot lower, okay? It's going to be a
So-
different return. Mhm.
This is going to sound like a stupid question, but so the term met, that these are people that I've met? Is that where we're getting it? Okay.
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
I moved to Texas from California 3.5 years ago. So many of my folks in my contact list, my phone, are out of state. And I know I can refer anybody that, or they can refer to me if they know someone moving here. But I had a close friend there that actually became a realtor, joined Keller Williams. And then I started getting just bombarded with emails and other things. And I don't want to be that annoying person, right? So that's what holds me back from going to my phone. So,
Well, and I hear you. And here's what I'd like to say. If you you cannot over communicate to a motivated person. You can over communicate to an unmotivated person. So the message that you deliver is important, right? So I think this is a really important point, Stacy. So I think this will be answered here. Let's take a look at the 33 touch, right? And I think you have to know the people. So one of the things we teach in Bold is you have to be in relationship with these people. When you're in relationship, you know how Stacy likes to be spoken to, contacted, what brings Stacy value. If Stacy is somebody that, wants a little bit of market update and no chit chat, well, let's deliver value to Stacy the way she likes to have value delivered. I agree. Stacy, like for me, I'm never going to send you a recipe.
you should, because I cook. So,
well, I don't.
okay.
So any recipe I cook, trust me, probably has 4 ingredients and salt and pepper are 2 of them. So I think my point though is how do we get into relationship with people, right? Now, my database is primarily a lot of entrepreneurs who probably don't cook a lot. They work their ass off, if I can say that online, right? And so they're not going to be looking to me for that. My husband, he volunteers a lot. He's passionate about dogs and animals. So like his group is, he shows a picture of a dog on his Facebook page and he gets like 50 likes and I'm like, my people aren't going to like a picture of a dog. So it's how do you have communication with your database the way that they desire to be?
Okay.
Now, in terms of we have to find you a database, let's take a look here. So this class really isn't about how to find it. I have a lot of thoughts on this though, Stacy, okay? Let's take a look at this next one because it's going to help you, all right? Let's move forward to the next topic. Okay, unmets. So these are the people, if you go back to page 137, these are really your haven't met. And when I say haven't met, there's somebody that it's a weird word, met, yet it's like this would be the person that you got a call on your sign. They were nice, yet you don't really know anything about them and you're not really in relationship with them. And then you also have what we call general public is a haven't met. And that would be an example of a farm neighborhood. So, you live in the Blue Spruce neighborhood and there's 200 homes in that neighborhood and you start farming to that neighborhood. None of them know you though. So to this group, we do what's called a 12 direct. And you don't even have to call this group. You can start calling them. It's a little more effective when you call, yet they're not going to take your call because they don't know you. What we're working for is to take certain number of them from this big circle and move them into the middle. With this group, it's 12 direct. It's 12 pieces of mail per year. It works really well. Like we're working a farm right now around our neighborhood. It's 146 homes. And now we've been working it and we've had 2 listing presentations in it. It's not like it's huge yet. Look at here. We've been working it 14 months And for every 50 people you market yourself to 12 times a year, you can expect one sale. It's been 1 year. We've had 2 listing appointments. One was yesterday. We'll see if we get it. Like it works out to those numbers. So let's take a look at the next slide though. I'm going to show you, I think it's, here we go. Regardless of how many you have. So Stacy, like you could take a look at this. If I don't know a lot of people in Texas, I know that it's a 50-to-1 ratio. These are people you haven't met on the right-hand side. Start marketing and lead generating to people you don't know. And for every sale you desire to have, you need 50 people in that database. As you grow, you can see on the people that you've met, it's a much lower ratio. It's 12-to-2. So for every 12 people in your database, you can have 2 sales. So really, to me, I don't know why they didn't do 1 in 6. Anyway, right? Yet, if we take a look at this, so this is where we're like, okay, here's where I'm at. I can build my business and hit the goals based upon the haven't mets with a goal of how am I going to grow my database in Texas to get, so I don't have to work that hard forever. Is that making sense? Kara, how about for you?
Can't find the mute button. I'm sorry. Well,
That's
the
okay.
initial question. I spent the last 5 minutes with a whole lot of drawn out sounds.
Oh,
So, which is fine. I'm back now, and I caught the last little bit of the lead generation ratios, but what was the initial question?
well, so like as a buyer's agent on a team, right? Or you're a listing agent on a team, right? Yeah, so you could take a look here. On a team, you might be talking to people that you haven't met, right? You might be lead generating to old leads and a follow-up system, right? So you can see over here, sometimes an agent will beat themselves up. Like I made 20 calls this week and got nothing. Well, if it's a haven't met's database, we're going to have to do a lot more to find that one deal versus focusing on growing our Mets database. And I have to move on here so we cover all these points. Yet here's what I'll say about database. Build a database the way you'd like to live and spend your time. If you like hiking, join the hiking groups, get all those people into your database. If you like cooking, join a cooking club or a dinner club and get all those people into your database. If you like ukuleles, join, invite people who like ukuleles to the house and get them all into your database. If you like dogs, or maybe you're a social activist or whatever it is, find people with similar interest. This makes it a nice, great way to spend your time, right? You're doing business and have common interest. And now, like, people who have common interests like to do things together, including refer their friends and family to you for business. So if you don't have a database that's very large on the Met side, put a plan around how quickly you're going to grow it based upon how many deals you'd like to do per year. Is this making a little bit of sense?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And literally, we spend 7 weeks in Bold doing this.
Okay.
Like, that's why I keep pushing, like, that's a class that gets agents into action. I'm not here to sell Bold. I probably won't be back in your city. Like, and yet this is a challenge a lot of agents have, and we have a solution to it because it's in the doing too. All right, so let's go ahead to the next.
Where are you located? Where do you reside?
I'm in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Arizona area.
Oh, okay. I know that area. So
I love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to this next couple sections here.
I just have one more question, and this is a quick yes or no. So because I moved, I kept my phone number, which a lot of people are doing these days. And one of my concerns is, you get a phone number from this area code that say, oh, somebody's calling me from California. So like in lead generation, is that going to be a negative? Do I need to get a new phone number?
I don't think so. I have a number from 20 years ago, and it's
That's
not
my
in this
number.
area.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe 6 years ago it mattered. And then somewhere in the last 4 or 5 years, it didn't matter any longer.
Okay.
Yeah. Great
Thanks.
question.
Thanks.
My pleasure. So you can go back into this workbook and you can determine based upon the model how many people you have to grow into these databases to hit your numbers. And that's really what this is about. There is a model for everything that has worked. You want to do 20 deals a year, you work the numbers backwards and you can have it. Okay. So let's go on to this next slide. And I think it might be two. So go slow here, Jill. There's 4 laws of a database. Let's go on to the next one for this. Okay. Now the second, the budget model, or the third, the budget model. Let's take a look at page 152 for you here. Now the budget model is covered in depth in our class called Agent Financials. All right. And it's about understanding that, well, a lot of agents give up all their income. They're buying business and they could actually get rid of a lot of it and net more money if they didn't pay for half the products and services that weren't bringing them a return. Right? So we always lead with revenue. And what we do is we call it number 2, play red light, green light. This is something you'll hear with an expense. And next to red light, green light, the easiest way to start for any agent under, $100,000 a year is that if the expense is not bringing you a 3 to 4 times return, cut it. And I would say it's okay to test something for 3 to 6 months. Yet after that time, if it's not bringing you that return, it's probably not going to. So either it's not working or you're not working it, and longer is just longer in my experience. And then stick to the budget model. So at the beginning of the year, if you say, I'm going to give 10% to my lead generation, right? Stick to that 10%. So when somebody calls and offers you a great product, you're like, nope, not in the budget. Call me again next year after I've identified if what I'm doing is working. Pretty simple, right? Stick to the budget. And next slide, because we show you in the MREA that all of this is in here. If you'll look at pages, and you can go to the next slide, Jill. If you start looking, ladies, at page 156, 157, you'll see that it breaks down the budget model of what's recommended, of what teams are doing to hit $1 million a year. Can you hear me, Kara? Okay. I just want to make sure we're good. Okay. So, and when you go to, here's a tip. When you go to command and you look up chart of accounts, it will give you a spreadsheet with all of the Keller Williams recommended expenses and income. So you don't have to recreate this. You can download the spreadsheet and have what the agents are working off of. Okay, so that's a really easy way to do it to start. In general, as a single agent, okay, in general, as a single agent, your expenses should not be more than 30 to 35%. Okay, now many of my single agents, their expenses are as low as 18 to 20%. If you're a luxury agent, it might be a little higher. Okay. As a team, and as you grow the team, those numbers are going to change quite drastically. Okay. So like as a team, you might only be netting 30% to 40% when you're all done. Okay. Because there's a lot of expenses that go into that. So like on many teams, like the MREA model actually shows that we're going to give somebody a salary and only 20% of the commission, Kara. A lot of the buyer's agents don't like that and seller's agents don't like that. Yet that's what Gary recommends, and pretty much no one's running with it. So just so you know, not everybody sticks to the model, yet that's Gary's model in there, a little tip. Okay. Okay, so you can, and now we're going to go to your organizational model. I want to show you, there's a, keep going. I want to show them something right here, right here. Look at page 197. It's easier to see there. This right here is the org chart, or the organizational model of how a millionaire real estate agent who's receiving $1 million, their team would look. And as you see, you're the CEO at the top. And the way that you grow, so is number one, you could write in the circle CEO 1, that's you. Number 2 is marketing and admin manager. That's your second hire. A lot of agents hire a buyer's agent or a seller's agent first as their first hire. And really it's about the admin first. Now, does anybody know what your second key hire is? It's admin. So again, you're doing all that you can. It's that E to P, moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful. So you're doing all that you can, and then you leverage with a people or a tool. And then maybe that's a transaction coordinator or somebody to do your database, right? And then from there, the next person is either someone to do your admin work or someone to do your transactions. Those are your first 2 key hires, because what happens is an agent will not have enough listings on the team to support the buyer's team. And then they're surprised when buyer's agents come and go so quickly because they don't have enough leads to support a true income for a person. So first we hire admin, and our second hire is admin. And then we grow from there. And you can see how you grow into these. And if you look on KW Connect, you could look up 3rd level real estate agent, 5th level real estate agent. All of it's online for you to see. So I'm curious, as we're getting to this part sort of towards the end here, what are some of your takeaways about the ELBO: economic, lead generation, budget, and organization?
On the organizational piece, I'm currently on a team. And if I have dreams of becoming a millionaire agent at some point, is that happening on a team, or am I like burning my oil? Okay.
It is. Here's what's fun. The number 1 buyer's agent on Lance Loken's team actually earns more than Lance Loken does. Everybody know in Keller Williams, like if you've been to our events and stuff, they know the name Lance Loken. His buyer's agent earns more than he does. Yet he loves being on the team because the support is there and he doesn't have to recreate the support. So like if you look over here on this model on page 197, over here under lead listing specialist, Kara, you can grow your team within a team. It was interesting. I shared with you about that buyer's agent who had to have 17 agreements at all time, right? Buyer agency agreements at all time, or else we knew she'd be off track. She was netting, she was earning, she was on a team, so all expenses were paid. She was earning about 190 at that time, 192,000. And she says, I keep asking my rainmaker to get me a buyer specialist. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, she doesn't want to. And I'm like, you just earned 197,000. You're earning more than most small businesses, and you won't pay for your own buyer specialist. She's like, well, I never thought of it. Like, this is your team over here. She goes, oh. Right. I always say, grow where you're planted. Grow where you're planted. Like if your soil is good and you're getting enough water and sunlight, grow where you're at. If the soil's bad, we'll get out, right? There's pretty much nothing you can do. If you need more soil you need more light or water, that's up to you to ask your rainmaker, hey, I need more light over here. Yeah, my soil's good. I'm missing a few things though. That's my advice on that. Of course, I'm the one who stays where I'm at. I mean, I love it. I love it. All right. In fact, I stayed with the company, Stacy, my first, until they closed their doors in 2007, 2008, I mean. I stayed with a company where my cap to them, there was no cap. And they earned over $130,000 from me in 1 year and did that every year. And I stayed because I wanted the soil was good and everything was good. And I didn't have to recreate certain things. And then they closed their doors and I had to go do it on my own.
Yeah.
And that worked too. Netted more money. So, okay. Is this helpful?
Yes.
Cool. All right, ladies. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go take a 5-minute break. It's top of the hour. Let's take a little 5-minute break, stretch our legs. I think our learning is about going out the door because this is a lot of learning. Like I said, it's very water skiing so that you can go deep in certain areas of them. All right. So let's take a break, and I'm going to take a little break as well. And I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Feel a little better, Kara?
Yes, always.
Good.
I'm just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I said good.
Oh, yeah. I sent you a note. I need to step away briefly at 12:30.
Okay.
We had no hot water this morning, but I'll come right back. I just need to get the plumber started.
I tell you what, I think we're actually going to be finished.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll be finished by 12:30, right at that. I am going to have Jill, if you will put the KWU eval in the chat for everyone. That way, if you would, I'm still working towards that number, Kara. And my 2 today are super important. You're very important to me. Okay. All right, if you'll do that. All right, so we'll wait for Stacy to come on back. Any questions? What are you taking away from this, Kara? Either of you, what are any questions or what are your takeaways before we dig in?
I think for me, there's I'm just trying to learn really some of the basics of the lead generation and all the different opportunities, for that activity. And they're varied. And so, some I'm comfortable with, some I'm not as comfortable with. So, looking at what might, be helpful to develop out not only the business plan, but the aspects, the detail of each week, filling a schedule. So I know what activities I need to do and hold myself accountable to.
Take a look at page 138. I'm going to help you out here, okay?
Thank you.
My pleasure. I mean, because now we're seeing that it is in the book. It's like, that's why, they say read it 12 times. In here, we talk about prospecting, which is proactive and direct, meaning that will give you a deal in the next week or two. Versus marketing, which is indirect, and it's more passive income for the future. So that's receiving a lead, yet it can take quite a bit of time for those incoming leads, and they're always going to be slower and lower in number.
Right.
So if you need a lead today, you want to look to the left side. And what I would say, Stacy, is to pick 3. You don't need to do all these. Pick 3 though. And if there's one you're definitely going to focus on, you want to, like, past clients, yet you have one past client. Yet I am going to say we always focus on past clients. And also these things at the bottom, these face-to-face, this is helping you to create what we would call that MET database, those allied resources right in the middle who are going to give you the highest return. So I would pick maybe 2 more from this. Is it going to be a community event or a group or booths at events, or, it could be church or your partner's phone book, or, like pick 2 areas and you're going to start there to grow your database. And what we talk about in Bold is we want you to get to 250 people as quickly as possible, because a database of 250 people who know you, trust you, like you, respect you can turn into 41 pieces of business every
Mhm.
year.
Okay.
So decide, like, I would, like, what's something you enjoy doing, Stacy? In your spare time, what do you enjoy doing?
Well, I do, yard work. And, but I do, I am, lined up with the coaching at my market center. And so, with that, also the lead gen activities that take place pretty much
Mhm.
daily, right? So, I'm getting involved in those. I actually, my real, strength in business for years, and I have an MBA, but my biggest strength was teaching and training when I was doing loss control work. I could go
Let
out
me
and I
help
could
you
survey a
out.
client,
Okay.
but teaching and training
This is-
and speaking is my forte.
I got you then. I'm so glad we had this conversation. If you go to KW Connect, and you know where the Connect is, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, when you go to KW Connect, there is a webinar or not a webinar, it could be webinar or in person that's already written for you. And then as you get better, you can, proficient, you can change it the way you'd like. And it's a first-time home buyer seminar, or there's also an investor seminar. It's a 1-hour class. It tells you exactly what to say. It tells you what experts to bring in. You could do it by Zoom or in person. And this would be an amazing way to fulfill the gift that you have and how you like to live, right? And give back and grow your database.
Mhm.
So I might start with, I'm going to do a seminar a month or a seminar a week. And remember, it doesn't really matter if the people come to the seminar, it's that they signed up for it and raised their hand. As an example, if in full transparency, look, I had 17
people. Yep, I thought about that.
2 showed up, and we're going to email this out.
Mhm.
Right. And so there's still referral opportunities with those other 15 who didn't show up today. They're just as valuable as you're valuable to me. And I let go of how many people show up. If I had to track how good I am based upon who shows up, well, I don't know about that. Right. So that could be a way that you could grow your business, doing something you love to do and you're great at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would go look at those and start and take that back and be like, okay, how could I use this? Right.
Mhm.
And yet this is our area. If you look at page 138, this is going to be a good guide for you. Okay. Don't
Okay.
pick all of them, pick 2 to 3.
So I have a stupid question, right? So the Allied Resources, is that an organization? What is that? I mean, is it, because that's the center of that bullseye.
Yeah. Those could come from Chamber of Commerce, BNI Group,
Okay.
Local businesses. They could be your plumber, your landscaper, your nutritionist, your hairstylist. Those are the people who are out talking to people every day.
Okay.
And they're looking.
I've had actually my sister-in-law recommended, joining the Chamber of Commerce, and I've held off doing that because I just feel like I haven't fully launched. And so didn't want to put my business out there until, you know what I mean? Until I felt like I knew what I didn't know. Right?
The Department of Real Estate in Texas says you know enough to help someone buy a house or sell a house.
Right. Okay.
Not everyone has the MBA yet, and maybe they should. And I think you're pretty smart. You know enough.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
You know enough.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, let's go on. And I think we might even end a little early today. I've always found that we can all only learn, and you probably know this, Stacy, we can only learn sitting online for so long, right? I want to make sure that we cover the most important things though. Let's see, let's go to the next. We're actually going to slide through past that. I do want to touch on profit sharing. So a big tenet of Keller Williams is that we desire to help the people that we work with grow wealth, not just another sale, true wealth where you don't have to work this hard forever, right? And so if you look at page 209, now this is a little different than profit sharing that we teach at Keller Williams to grow people into your downline. This is actually, as you grow your team, how do you train and consult and then retain the talent that you poured so much into, right? And page 209 describes an example of a profit share plan that you can use or offer to the agents on your team as you're growing. The main thing here is you either offer a bonus or you offer profit share. They only get to sign up for one or the other. And so that's the big piece about this. Yet I love that we've given an example about how you could create that. All right. Okay. Now here, I'm going to show you a little person who wants up. This is Daisy. Now, this is not my Daisy. I have a friend staying with me, and her sweet little puppy Daisy decided to come visit me.
She's adorable.
She is cute. She might have to sit on my lap. Okay. All right. So this is a way to retain talent, is by putting together a profit share plan. Let's go on to the next idea as well. Number 18. Okay. Now we're going to move into net a million. And here's some thoughts. And, you know, we're going to glide through these a little bit faster because we're not there yet. If I had agents on the call that were already 4th or 5th level, I'd spend more time there. So I always gauge my class and spend the time where it's most important. And I want you to see that Gary says, think big, aim high, act bold, like go as big as you can. So you want to know where you're going. So we do want to spend a little bit of time here. If we turn to page 219, and this section, starting on 217, is all about netting a million. So now we're in the section on netting a million. If you see on 219, these are the issues that show up that you want to be prepared for, right? Sustaining a solid lead generation plan, because as you add people to the team, some lead generate at different levels of number of leads they create and how they show up. So you have to figure out how to sustain it, tracking it. Here's what I wrote down at the bottom of this page. All right. I wrote down, what is your number one issue today? And what's the number one thing I can do to fix it? I think that's, you know, when something's not working in your team, you go to, or your business, you go to this number 219 because the answer is probably right here. And then you answer it. What's my number one issue of all these 16 issues? What's my number one issue? And what's the one thing I can do to solve it? This is where you go. So we're not going to cover all of them yet. You know, even when you have issues, it's here, right? All right, good stuff. And let's go to the next one. Okay. Systems. And you can look here at page 244. Now, I do think this is an important one to pay attention to. Where is it at here? So page 244. No matter where you're at in your business, you always want to document your systems. And I love that we've given an easy way to document your systems here on this chart on page 244. And the step one is you take out a yellow notepad and you write down everything you do. What I actually recommend for a newer agent is keep the notepad out and literally keep it out for a month. So it's not like you're going to write it all down today, because trust me, you'll forget something. Keep that notepad out for a month before you do anything with it. And every time you do something else, like, oh yeah, I had to order the signs, write it down. Oh yeah, I had to do a comparable market analysis, write it down. Oh yeah, I had to send the follow-up email, write it down. Like there's no detail too small to write down. So now, I answer the phones, whatever it is, it's all here. And then you can break it into these 6 categories and follow their recommendations here. You do this.
Can I just interject something here?
Please.
A great way to do this is to get a whiteboard, or if you have some kind of wall in your office that you
Sure.
can use, and you write each one on a separate Post-it note so that you can actually categorize them, organize them, and prioritize them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We do that at Keller Williams Realty International for Mega Camp and Family Reunion. Everything is on a sticky and then we can move it all around. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that, Stacy. So literally, you could time block this for like an hour a week or an hour a month. And within a couple of months, you would have all your systems documented. And when you're ready to hire somebody, it's already written down. So that would be a way for you to grow, Kara, with a seller listing specialist to help you, right? All right, now the next one, let's go to the next number 20. And these are, this is a little bit of a recap about the 80-20 rule. Yet if you look at page 255, as you've grown your business, right? Gary says it all begins by recognizing you really only have 2 choices regarding focus. You have to be focused or you're going to be unfocused. That's it. Like as you grow, if you're focused, you're going to grow. If you're unfocused, you're not growing, or you're growing in the wrong direction that's not going to help you hit the goal. So to be successful at these high levels, being focused is the only way to be. And one method you could use for that is this goal to action 20% that we share with you here on page 255. And it's, you're going to write down all your key goals and the action steps to hit them. You're going to put them in the calendar. Every day you do your top 20. And when you have time, you do the rest of the 80%. Yet you always get that one thing to goal done every single day, doing my one thing. And you can ask the questions like, what do I want? When do I want it? And what has to happen for me to receive it, right? So this can be used, page 255. I would earmark that one. That's one that when you're looking to think bigger and grow bigger, this is one you can use to get into action right away. Okay. This is one of our models there. All right, let's go to number 21 because I want to get to number 24. I love number 24. Okay. Counterbalance. This is from the One Thing as well. Here's the thing. As you're growing your business, there are going to be times where you have to spend more time with personal and times you have to spend more time at work. And sometimes you have to spend more time with the dog, right? So Kara, he was there going, I wanna, okay. So she gets that, right? Like we all work from home, right? Okay, yet here's the thing. Sometimes your business is gonna take over and you're not true. Balance is a lie. Like it's like a teeter-totter, right? Gary teaches us balance is a lie. Even on a teeter-totter, there's that 1 second where it's right here and then somebody goes flying. So the trick is to actually counterbalance. So when you're working a little too much, right, you realize that at home, something's going to have to let go. And when we have issues at home going on, sometimes work's going to be a little bit lighter. It's like what Jen Davis says, we're never going more than a week to be off track. We never let our key relationships in a world get so far off track that they get upset. We never let our work get too far off track of our goal so that we don't hit the goal. And this is what this counterbalance is about. And understanding that true idea of balance is a lie. It's just not going to happen. Just don't go so far off track. Now, I'm curious in your business, in your world, ladies, what's one area that you could counterbalance a little more right now? Learning what you've learned now, like how can we maybe add a system or a model or a tool so that you're not working so hard so you can get to more balance in that personal life or more balance in your business? What are you taking away from this?
My forever Achilles heel is time blocking that I'm constantly fighting for.
That thought, Kara.
I try, but yeah, I feel like that's what I'm trying to leverage the most to counterbalance here lately, is just to make sure that I'm really putting in the hours, making the phone calls, doing the things I need to do first part of the day, so that the second half of the day, when it's kids' activities and pick up and drop off and all the things, I'm done. So,
Have you ever considered time blocking the night before for the next day?
oh girl, yes, I time block the week on Sundays. And then each morning I have a handwritten calendar that I take my Google Calendar from, and I think through what I've time blocked to make sure it still works. And then I write everything in. The trouble is this thing. I'm like, yeah, I think actually, as I'm talking, I'm like, well, I work from home and my office is sort of out in the middle of the house because we have 2 work from home folks here. So I'm like, the dishes are dirty, this thing needs to be done. The kids can just walk right up to me. And so that's always, I mean, but also that's just our life right now. So,
Well, maybe. What are you going to do about it?
move. No, I
What
don't
if
know.
you worked from the office 2 days a week for a half day?
Yes, that's been an ongoing, I could probably book a conference room to do that.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
days of the week would you do that?
Oh man, you and your
I know.
accountability. Let me look. Let's see. My calendar doesn't like to load fast when I'm on Zoom. Okay, here we go. Tuesday and Thursday is probably
There
a
you
good.
go.
Okay.
There you go. And so that's what you do. You say, okay, these 2 days, I'm going to do it no matter what. And then maybe you have a flex day on the other 3 days of the week. Right.
Yeah.
So a flex schedule is something that sometimes people use as well. Like when I'm in the office, this is what my calendar looks like. And when I'm out of the office, this is what my calendar looks like. And I have to do at least 2 of the in the office per week to hit my goal. So it's not like that's an example of counterbalance too, right? It doesn't have to be this calendar that's perfect for the rainmaker who, is single and, like works out and eats protein and, like it could be different for every single person. I'm supposed to eat more protein, they tell me. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next one, ladies. Let's look at these last couple. And let's take a look, Jill. Let's transfer that on. Now we're going to move on to receive $1 million. And this is where life gets really, really fun. All right. And you can take a look on page 263. There are 4 things that Gary points out to pay attention to. Actually, if you look at, go to the next page, this will help us understand it. The next slide, Jill. Okay. So, receiving $1 million is it's about time, right? It's about what we do with our time. So when you start your business, you are working, and a lot of this comes from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. All right. So we like to give credit where credit's due. When we start out in real estate or wherever we're at, we're working a lot in our business and very little on our business, right? You're a single agent and I get to do all of it. Like you are taking all the actions. And then as you start to use leads, listings, leverage, right? Leverage, maybe it's a people or a tool that you're going to add into or a system. Well, that's where you're working about half in your business and half on your business. And that's being a manager. So there are people doing some of it for you and you're still in it doing some of the work, about half and half. And then as you're moving into receive $1 million, you're going to go to working a lot more on your business. And this is where you're training, consulting your team, and you're doing very little of the day-to-day activities. Now, you noticed you're never completely stepped out, because when you step out, this is where you lose touch with the team and the work that actually is required. This is where people have somebody else write the checks for them. And we always keep our eye on the money, right, ladies? Like there is one person who is always double checking that month, and that's you, the audit, right? So we are still doing work in the business, yet it's a much smaller place. And, so we move through and, right now as a new agent, probably you're in that first quadrant, and yet we want to move through these as quickly as possible. Now let's take up the next one. It's going to cover this a little bit more. If you turn to the next slide, time blocking. This is number 22. And, it's really about identifying that top 20% and doing it. That's it. And if we go back to the very beginning of what we talked about, it's lead generation. If we have no leads, we have no business. And now we're making that full circle, right? We got to do our 20%, and that is lead generation. And it's the one thing that everybody wants to give up as quickly as possible. And yet, even on the 7th level, you're going to be lead generating for talent to add to your team. So the quicker that we can get better at this skill and realize that is really our one thing, the quicker we can get to all those. And I love this thought, the last one, if you erase, you replace. So if today you don't do your lead generation in the morning, you got to find a time in the afternoon to do it. So if you erase it, you replace it somewhere else. And if you get into that concept, you will always do well. And then number 23, gel, drum roll, ladies, we are doing good. Take a look at page 291. And then we're going to go to number 24. Page 291. This is so awesome right here. Okay. This point from Gary, he says, when we say anybody can succeed, we do not mean everybody can succeed. There's a big difference. It's our belief that anybody can succeed at a high level and not everyone will. Why? Focus. And he says, we don't know why people are unable to achieve focus. As coaches, by the way, we ask this question to ourselves. Like, this is one of the main questions we ask as a coach. How can I help my client focus? It's what we do all the time. We just know, though, that this is the little difference that makes the biggest difference in their lives. The future of your real estate business depends directly on your ability to focus in the proper direction. So think of this, Stacy, as your MBA in real estate. It's your path. Did you get your MBA all in 1 year? How many years did it?
Took me two years and 3 months.
Well,
and I was working full-time, and actually that was full-time in school.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Prior to that, though, you had to go to high school. After that, you had to go to, 4 years, and then you had to go to graduate school. Like, how long did all of that take?
Well, I thought I was going to get married and start a big family, and that's never happened. I'm single. I'm an old maid, right? Me and my cousin are old maids. We're the last two in the family. So we actually have been roommates for quite a while, and neither one of us have found Mr. and Mr. Right. So anyway, we, but you can't just let life pass you by while you're waiting for that to happen. So it took me a while to get I got an AA first, and kept thinking somebody was going to show up and marry me, and didn't happen. So anyway, and once I was in business and I was meeting with executives at different companies, I have a professional certification that took me years to get, but nobody recognized it because they didn't know what it was when I walked into any old business. And I thought, what's going to give me credibility? And it's going to be a business degree. So I went after an MBA, and I was very focused, and I was determined, and I got it done. When actually it was 19 years to get my bachelor's, from high school to bachelor's.
And so thank you for sharing that. 19 years. And, this doesn't have to take that long. Here's what I will say. Gary says that you can be the very best that you can be in 5 years. No matter where you're at right now, you can be the very best that you can be in 5 years in real estate, and really anything, health, wealth, whatever it is. And so focus, that is the number one thing. And then once we have that, this very last thing, Gary likes to share his energy plan. And this is number 24. We have to keep our energy high. And he has this on page 308. And this is his recommendation for keeping your energy the highest that it is. And he says, all these things we get done by 11 o'clock every day. You do this and you keep your energy high enough to support everything else. So here's what we're gonna do. Jell's gonna put my request for an evaluation for this class up on the screen. And I'm sure appreciate if you would do that. I want to open it up though. Let's pull this, actually, Jell, let's put that into the chat. And then let's go ahead and close that slideshow. And I'd like to get a couple key takeaways from each of you. What you took away from this class, what you learned, and what you're going to do next really with it, right? What will you implement? So I'd love to hear where you're at, what you took away from this today.
This last bullet point is cool.
Yeah.
Just as far as getting everything done by 11 a.m. I think these are all pillars that I try to navigate my day by, but as I said, time blocking is always my Achilles heel, so having a cutoff time would be good.
There you go. Yeah. Awesome. So having a cutoff time, I think that's great. I love that. That in itself, how would that change your business, Kara?
I think it couldn't hurt, that's for sure. It would definitely feed into, well, I think it would affect my personal time more than it would affect my business, because I always get everything done, but it's sort of spread throughout the day, and things are constantly hanging over my head because, oh, this came up, I'm going to go over here. I mean, you just saw me, the water heater guy came early, so I'm like dropping everything, running over, so it would probably make it so that all of my lead gen and everything were done by a certain time. So my appointments can happen right after that. And then I have the rest of the day free. So
there you go. Yeah, I think do that for 90 days and let me know what happens.
Okay.
Because that's true focus. That's true focus. Getting it done by 11 and then whatever happens, happens, right? It's sort of like putting 20% away towards, a car or savings. You do that one thing and it accumulates. How about you, Miss Stacy? What's your big takeaway or insight that'll make the biggest impact on your business?
Just because I went through this whole layoff period, right? And went from being so productive every day to kind of then going into the whole study mode and back to, school, so to speak. And then all of a sudden now I'm licensed, and it's like, now what, and I'll admit I've had a hard time focusing in on how to organize my time each day. And I knew there were things that I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. And I knew there were things that I needed to be doing, but I didn't know what the priority was. And so getting in with Keller Williams now, going through Ignite and all of those things, it's like, okay, what is next? And I know the biggest thing is lead generation. And so now focusing in and having an action plan for that. So I'm actually just kind of at the tail end of getting into the coaching piece and the business plan development. So tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm not going to be doing anything tomorrow.
Good.
And then I will, take Sunday as a worship day. I don't ever do work on Sundays. And come Monday morning, I've got to sit down and plan out my calendar now for the rest of this month, next month, and kind of get some things organized so that I have that direct focus, so that by 11 a.m. these things are happening. So a couple things have happened in recent past. I decided to start a juice fast. Had health issues going on at the same time as all of this, and so I've dropped 10 pounds in 20 days.
Oh my gosh! Wow! And
I've gotten off of 3 prescription medications out of 5. My blood pressure has normalized. My sleep is better. My heart rate, my average heart rate, resting heart rate is lowered. So all good things, and the discipline of being able to do this juice fast has refocused me. It's rebooted me in more than one way.
Wow.
This is my snag. And so when I hear you say in 5 years you can do anything, right? I'll be 61 tomorrow. So I want to retire. I really don't want to be doing anything, to be honest, but I need an income. So 5 years from now, I'm just going to be arriving, and then I'm going to be thinking I want to, decline. You see what I'm saying? So that 5 year, I don't like hearing that, because it's like, why am I even doing this then if it's going to take me 5 years? I could go work for
it's
a
going to
company and
take
get
you
a
5
paycheck.
years.
Yeah.
I was just teaching Bold in Omaha, Nebraska, and a young woman, Brittany McAllister, graduated Bold. It was her first year in the business, and she graduated December 2018. And I walked into the Bold room in May of this year, 2022, right? And she said, Denise, here's the card that I wrote that I would be the #1 agent in all of Omaha in 5 years. And I just found out today, I'm currently the #1 agent in Omaha. She did it in 3.5 years. So it doesn't have to take that long. What I'm saying though, is that this is the path. You choose where you want to be along that path and go for it. Make it big, whatever it is, make it huge. And Gary Keller says, go blow up your life and let all the pieces settle, because it'll be bigger and better than it is today.
So I have a question about that, because as in developing the business plan, I really did have a pretty high goal, because it's like, if you don't, the same thing, what I've done for 30 years, if you set a goal to have zero injury, or to have zero injuries in a workplace, then the likelihood is you're going to have as few as is possible. But if you set a goal like, oh, well, last year we had 12, so this year let's set a goal for 5, then you're setting a goal to injure people. And so my thought is the same thing's true with this. You set a goal for 100,000 in a year instead of 1 million, then you're probably not going to reach 100,000. You know what I mean? You could, but the likelihood of blowing through that 100,000 is less, because you're not setting your sights that high. So I set these really high goals, and in talking with the coach in our market center, and she didn't discourage me, but I asked the question, is this doable, or am I setting this too high? And she's like, and that's the other thing, I don't want to set myself up to fail either, and not, from week to week to week, not have those contacts in my database.
Here's how I'm going to answer it. You have to set it realistic, and yet if you don't hit it in the time that you're looking to hit it on, you don't change the goal. You keep working toward it and extend the time. So we overestimate what we can do in the short term, and underestimate what we can do in the long term with time over task. And so I would set the goal at where you desire to be, plan it out, and then get there faster. Because, can we make an agreement, Stacy, you're a different person knowledge-wise than who you were at 22?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And speed to knowledge, would you say, is faster now than when you were 25? Right? So
it depends on how fast the brain works.
Maybe, yeah. And so speed to this can be fast. Although, don't get beat up on yourself if you don't hit the goal. I am going to say and this is, I keep talking about classes that dive deep into this. You want to dive deep into database classes. Bold is a database class that will help you hit that number faster than anything else you do, because it's an accountability program that gets people into production fast. So I would say take Bold. Or ask your market center about any classes and accountability you can take around database. All right. That's where I would start there is, and that's leads, listings, leverage, leads. I'm going to get them from my database, whatever that looks like. That's the first step. And any goal can be hit if the database is aligned to it and we take action. So there's a database that will hit every single goal with action. Okay. I love it. All right, ladies, have an amazing day. Jel, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And, you know, if you liked this, you'll keep getting the classes. I think the one next month, I believe, is my lead generation class. It's that, or it's in January. We're going to keep running these specials through the end of the year. So we would love to have you on them. It's been a great pleasure. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Jill.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Next time.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna run. Jel, you were awesome. That was perfect. You did a great job. Such a pleasure to meet you.
All right.
And I'm gonna scoot.
All right, thank you so much. I'll also send maybe the recording, but I'm gonna cut the part where we had the first break because we were talking really about that was not connected to the lesson. So I'm just gonna remove that part and then send you the recording that I have. All right. And
Okay,
it's
send it to Alyssa as well.
oh, all right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and
Okay.
then I got Stacy's email. Is it okay if I use my own email to send the files to her? That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right,
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
I'll
me.
see you again. Okay,
All right. Bye.
thanks, Jill.